Gohar Shahi, marhaba. I'm going to read out some selected utterances of His Holiness Gohar Shahi, and we can name this Words of Wisdom by His Holiness Imam Mehdi Gohar Shahi. First, I would like to introduce to our viewers this divine writing of His Holiness Gohar Shahi. This is the ultimate textbook of spirituality. And this book was published by Balboa Press, United States of America. The name of the book is The Religion of God. On the title page of the book, there is a piece of advice that reads, "This book requires unruffled concentration, attention, pondering, and research from all religions, sects, and every man. It poses a challenge to those who deny the existence of spirituality." This book not only talks about spirituality in unprecedented details, at the same time, this book tells us the future. This book is so concise, yet covers everything about God, about prophets, about saints, about religions, about you, about me. There is nothing that exists, but it doesn't exist in this book. This is a masterclass book. This book contains secrets of God, untold mysteries, untold secrets of God. You may have read books of fiction, science fiction, stories, novels, all sorts of different books. But some books are just a pastime. You read it, you enjoy it, and you forget it. Some books guide you how to live. But this book covers the past of God, the past of humanity, present of humanity, present of God, future of humanity, and future of God. This book covers every single topic that you can't even imagine of. This is a super textbook on spirituality. And you will get to know many things that would have been like a question in your mind for years and years. And you looked for the answers, and you realized that looking for an answer, finding an answer is not possible. So let's just forget about it. But when you read this book, you will come to know that those answers which were stored in your mind, these answers, these questions are answered in this book. But the most important aspect of this book, which of course is the case of a divine book, when you read this book, you are going to feel that you are connected with the author. When you read this book, you will feel that questions are popping up in your mind, but at the same time, answers are also popping up. And by the time you complete this book and put it back on the table, you will be jumping on your feet. The taste of pudding is in eating. This book is the most valuable asset in the field of theology, spirituality, and mysticism. No mystical truth is complete without this book. And universality of this book is such that a Jew will read this book and he will feel that only he is being addressed. A Hindu will read this book and he will feel the same, like he is being addressed. A Muslim will read this book and he should feel, although he hides it, but he should feel that he is being addressed. And an atheist will read this book and he'll feel comfortable reading this book. And he will feel somebody is trying to sell him the idea of believing in God again. And he will develop an attitude within himself that he is giving in to the truth that God exists. Not because somebody is going to put forward a very solid argument, but because there are answers in this book which no religious scholar can come up with regarding the reasons why atheism came into existence. Obviously, there might have been some issues with people, and these people must have gone through an enormous amount of pain and turmoil, and they must have been let down by God to a certain extent. They must have been disappointed in God at the time of need when they called upon God and God didn't reply to them, God didn't help them out. As a result of this disappointment and feeling of being let down, they became rebellious and they completely denied the existence of God. His Holiness Gohar Shahi has discussed those sensitive issues and points in this book, which may appear as a taboo subject to a religious scholar. But His Holiness Gohar Shahi has been pretty much fair. And one thing which is very important, you see, like all other religious scholars, when they're writing about God, it's like they have been bribed by God. They will keep praising God. God is this, God is that. You must believe in God or He will push you to hell. You know, they are biased. And being a human being, you will definitely be biased to God and prejudiced to a sinner. But this book does tell you about the existence of God, does tell you about the nature of God, and also tells you where God was not Himself and people who were looking up to God were let down, were disappointed. So an atheist, when he reads this book, he will feel, oh my gosh, whoever this person is, he is not an advocate of God. He is a fair mediator, trying to make a bridge between man and God. And in trying to do so, he is impartial. It's not like you must believe in God or this will happen, that will happen. It's all your fault and bow down to God and this and that. No. His Holiness Gohar Shahi is such a unique mediator between man and God that he pinpoints God when he is wrong and he pinpoints man when he is wrong. The reader, if he is an atheist, will feel, I am in a court which is unbiased. I am in a court where the judge is impartial, and this judge is not just impartial, but is a universal mediator. And if His Holiness Gohar Shahi convinces you to believe in God, you can simply call him the advocate of God. In this day and age, like a person who has been alleged of some crime and he thinks he hasn't committed any crime, but in order to convince the judiciary system, he needs a lawyer, an advocate, a barrister. Similarly, God needs a barrister today. God needs an advocate. And all those religious scholars who were meant to be advocate, they have turned out to be pimps. His Holiness Gohar Shahi sees both parties with an equal eye. Men and God, both parties are equal in the eyes of Gohar Shahi. This is such a wonderful book. This book was printed in the United States of America by Balboa Press, Bloomberg, Indiana, and it's available on Amazon. And those who live in Canada, they can visit Chapter, and in the United States of America, Barnes and Nobles, and in the UK, you can order this book at Waterson Bookstore, Waterson, or even at W.H. Smith. I'm going to read some selected excerpts from this holy book. And I'm going to read the reasons why a man becomes a terrorist. You would be really surprised to know that you do not need a special knowledge of hatred to become radicalized. Oftentimes we hear in the newspapers, on TV, on radio, that some people are being radicalized and they have been radicalized. There is some kind of hateful doctrine and this and that. But this is really interesting to know that in order for a person to be radicalized, you do not need a special hateful knowledge or doctrine. What happens is, according to God, God created everything in pairs, double, pairs, right? Like men and women, day and night, truth and falsehood, and then light and darkness, inner and outer. In a similar way, God created knowledge and paired it up, the outer knowledge and the inner knowledge. Knowledge of the exterior and knowledge of your interior. The inner dimension and the outer dimension. Now His Holiness Gohar Shahi says, the outer knowledge is incomplete without inner knowledge. Like a man is incomplete without a woman. Like a woman is incomplete without a man. Similarly, outer knowledge is incomplete without inner knowledge. His Holiness Gohar Shahi explains, the outer knowledge hardens the heart, and the inner knowledge softens the heart. Now the thing is, when you are in pursuit of knowledge, you must obtain both types of knowledge. If you obtain outer knowledge and you ignore inner knowledge, what will happen? You will become Saudi Arabia. You will become Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You will become Wahhabi. You will become Shia. You will become Sunni. Words are very dangerous. Ask me why. Because when you speak words, your intention does not include those words. Your words come out, and why did you say that? The intention of using those words remains in your heart. For example, Zahir Shah is a prophet. It's an example. He's not a prophet. And the door is open, and it's -2 outside. And Zahir Shah said to Bilal, Bilal, shut the door. And Bilal says, why? Come on, it's very cold. Shut the door. And somebody is coming, and he wants to come in the house. And he sees, oh, the door was open. When they saw me, they shut the door. Now, nobody knows why the door was shut. Zahir Shah asked him to shut the door because it was cold, not because he did not want anybody to come in. But people will just repeat the words said by Zahir Shah. Oh, the Prophet said, shut the door, Bilal, shut it. This is how invaluable Quran is without Muhammad. You only have the words of God. You do not have the intention of God. So this is outer knowledge. You have the spoken word of God. This is outer knowledge. But why God used those words, you do not know the reason, and you do not know the intention of God. Now, if you had the interior knowledge as well, that knowledge would have connected your heart with God. And whenever you would read God's words, God's intention would fall upon your heart, and you would know the real interpretation of God's words you are reading. Trust me, you do not need a special doctrine of hatred to become hateful, like ISIS. If you have outer knowledge of any religion, but you lack spiritual knowledge, which connects the heart with God, one day you will become Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You are on the way to becoming ISIS. Without Sufism, without spirituality, you are on the autopilot. You do not intend to become a bastard. Without spirituality, you will end up being a bastard. And you can see how these people are using words of Quran. Go kill kafirin. They don't know what was the intention of God and why it was said. See, the inner knowledge is very important. If you don't have inner knowledge, no matter who you are, either you are a Shia or you are a Sunni or you are Wahhabi, one day you will become terrorist. And we have seen it. Don't you think there are no Shia organizations who are involved in terrorism? There are. Wahhabis have gone one step ahead of everybody else. They are professional killers. They are professional bastards. But there are some occasional terrorists. You think Iran is not a terrorist country? Iran is a terrorist country. I mean, my friend, try to understand. Terrorism is not just about killing people. The fundamental definition of terrorism is to keep people under terror, and their quality of life is badly disturbed and affected, which is affected now, right? I mean, there was a time when you're traveling in a car with your wife and your children, and the policeman wouldn't bother you. Oh, he's a family man. At the airports, if you are with your children and your wife, they wouldn't bother you too much. Like, he can't be a terrorist. He's traveling with his wife and with small children. He can't be a terrorist, come on. But then what happened? Even women became terrorists. They used even children. 4-year-old boy was wearing an explosive jacket. So now, whether you're traveling with your family, with your children, no exemption. Time has changed. Living under terror is terrorism. And this is terror. And then you know what happened? If a woman is wrapped up in niqab and hijab, wailing, you get really scared. Oh, she is very explosive. She can explode anytime. And if a girl or a woman would pass by you wearing a jeans, half naked, you're relaxed. She's okay. She's not radicalized. But now it's different. Now it's different. These terrorists are now giving the new recruits a new manual. Don't change your name, wear outfits like Westerners, women or men. Don't grow beard, drink alcohol, sleep with women, sleep around. There is no mark of distinction between the two. What kind of terror is this? You will never know. What happened in Paris on 2 occasions was death. But what is terrorism? You know what terrorism is? People are afraid of visiting Paris. This is terrorism. They are under terror. Don't walk alone in unlit areas. This is a piece of advice. But as soon as a warning comes, cool breeze, chilling your body goes across. Oh my gosh. Oh, forget it. I'm not going. When you want to go somewhere and you sense a threat and you sense fear, you postpone it. This is terror. After these events in Paris and San Bernardino, there was so many Hayox calls on different aeroplanes, false calls of bombs. It was terror. They came back. You don't need a bomb or you don't need a gun to terrorize people. It's psychological battle. It's very easy. So they have been successful. That's why we say it. We are not afraid. We stand united. But these are just words. Human beings have this psychological weakness in them. When they spot a danger, first thing that comes to them is fear or attack. Either you fear or you attack. Right or wrong? To spread terror is in your nature. On a local level or a larger level, you are a terrorist. And the only way you can overcome your ugly nature is to adopt spirituality, which will soften your heart, which will transform you into a good human being. I'm now going to read some selected utterances of His Holiness Gohar Shahi. His Holiness Gohar Shahi says, in the end times, God will send one of these special souls on earth, and this special soul will find and unite them together. And He will remind them that they also once loved God. All such souls, whether or not they are religious, will attend to His call and flock around Him. He will grant them a unique name of God, which will pass through their hearts and settle in their souls. The souls will constantly engage with the repetition of that name, and that soul will become a permanent zakir. The unique name of God will confer on them a brand new enthusiasm, a new power, and a new definition of love. The divine energy of the unique name of God will reconnect the soul with God. Invocation of the heart serves like an intermediary ladder to obtaining invocation of the soul, just as the rituals of salat, a form of worship, and fasting are means of obtaining the invocation of the heart. If the soul of an individual has learned to invoke God, he is among those who shall have no fear of accountability and the divine scale on the day of judgment. The advanced stages of invocation and worship of soul confirm his elevated rank. Individuals that are progressing in spirituality from the heart towards the soul are among those who have entered the religion of God or are about to enter it. Their means of guidance is God's light, not the books. God's light itself keeps them away from committing sins. And those who, even by striving or by learning about it, are deprived of this spiritual status are not included in this spiritual league. Heretics are those that, without invocation of the heart and the soul, consider themselves among those in this spiritual league or imitate them. The means of salvation for common folks is worship and religion. The means of guidance are the celestial books. The means of intercession are through the prophets and the saints. Many Muslims do not accept the fact that the saints can provide people with intercession to God. However, Prophet Muhammad advised his companions to request Awais Qarani to provide his ummah with intercession to God. His Holiness Gohar Shahi says, there are three parts of exoteric knowledge. Exoteric knowledge means outer knowledge. Outer knowledge is like a car. Body works, how to beautify the body of the car. And then comes the engine. If the body is beautiful, but the engine is useless, the entire thing is useless. There used to be a British car known as Rover, and it was not a reliable car. But then what happened? They replaced the engine in that car, and they started to use Honda engine in that car. After this, the sale went really high. So basically, it's about the engine, not the body. One who fixes the body of the car is like a person who has outer knowledge. And one who fixes the engine of the car is like somebody who has the inner knowledge, right? Similarly, outer knowledge tells you how to keep your body clean, how to behave yourself, how to perform rituals of the religion. That's all. But the inner knowledge will awake human instinct in you. The inner knowledge will bring out to the surface all the humanly attributes which have been granted to your soul by God. From very childhood we have heard, being a man is greater than being an angel. But all our life in our societies, we have regarded angels as greater than us. But in the books, we are greater. In practical life, they are greater. We have to believe in the ministries of angels. But in theory, a man is greater than an angel. And when we came to see Sarkar and Sarkar told us about this, we realized that there is a special knowledge, and that knowledge will make man greater than angel. If you don't have that knowledge, you are not greater. You are not even great, forget about being greater. And this is the knowledge of the heart, knowledge of the soul. This knowledge connects you to God. So there are three parts of exoteric knowledge and one part of esoteric knowledge, the inner knowledge. One has to find a Moses to obtain exoteric knowledge. You have to find Moses. to get outer knowledge, and a Khidr to obtain esoteric knowledge. Or for inner knowledge, you have to look for a Khidr of the time. The inspirational voice that one hears without the presence of the Gabriel is known as ilham. The knowledge that one obtains without the Gabriel accompanying it is known as sahifa, divine scroll, and hadith, conversation with God without a medium. The knowledge conveyed through the Gabriel is known as the Quran, whether it contains exoteric knowledge or esoteric knowledge, whether you call it the Torah, the Psalms of David, or the Bible. The religious scholars get away with their faults and errors by labeling it as politics. Faults and errors by the saints are regarded and ignored as acts of wisdom, hikmat. Faults and errors by the prophets are not regarded as faults and errors. The concerned souls inside the human body gain strength with whatever type of a spiritual practice they are engaged in. And those that are not engaged in any spiritual practice are dormant and senseless. And those that through any means have absorbed God's name in their souls, their hobby is then constant remembrance of God and rapturous love of God. No wonder the Eastern poet Iqbal said, if you possess rapturous love of God, then your kufr is Islam. Imam Mehdi will rejuvenate all the religions. Revivers emerged within Muslim Ummah in the post-Muhammadan era, and they revived the religion. The amendments of these mujaddid will become ineffective after the advent of Imam Mehdi. And Imam Mehdi will rejuvenate all the religions in his very own way. It is mentioned in several books that Imam Mehdi shall found a brand new religion. His Holiness Gohar Shahi says, if an individual worships all his life, but in the end he happens to oppose Imam Mehdi and Jesus Christ, the return of both personalities to this world is imminent. Jesus Christ appears with the same body as he was raised up with, and Imam Mehdi is in the body with the terrestrial spirits of Prophet Muhammad. Such an individual is hellbound in the similitude of Biliam Ba'or, and he is as rejected by God as devil. On the contrary, if an individual lives all his life like a dog, but in the end he happens to support and love Imam Mehdi and Jesus Christ, such an individual shall enter paradise in the similitude of Katmir. Some of the religions and sects say Jesus had died and his tomb is situated in Afghanistan. This is a misleading propaganda. The tomb in Afghanistan is not that of Jesus Christ, but of a saint whose name also is Isa. In that primitive age, what could have been the purpose of burial at such a far-off place? They argue, how was Jesus raised to the skies? We say, how was Adam descended on the earth? Remember, Anak still lives physically in the paradise. Khidr, a mystical figure, and Elias are present on earth, and they haven't tasted death yet.
Aura TV. Guidance. Brought to you